Construction is one of the areas of employment where hazardous conditions are part of the everyday working environment. Construction workers engage in many activities that may expose them to serious hazards, such as falling, being struck by heavy construction equipment, electrocutions, etc. Hazards on a construction site. Construction workers engage in many activities that may expose them to serious hazards. These construction hazards may result in injuries or even death. So, every construction worker must be aware of construction site hazards, such as working at height, massive machinery and objects, slips, trips, and falls, noise, hand-arm vibration syndrome, material and manual handling, collapsing trenches, actively used chemicals, electricity, airborne fibers and materials, sharp edges, scaffold. Working at height. The construction of buildings and demolition works frequently requires tradesmen to work at height. Fatalities and injuries involving height-relating factors account for many accidents each year. The risks associated with working at a height are often increased by added access and mobility restrictions. Training, including safety awareness training, is essential for employees required to work at height. Massive machinery and objects. While there are a multitude of dangerous hazards at a construction site, dangers posed by massive machinery and objects are one of the most serious hazards. Construction workers must deal with dangerous heavy machinery on a daily basis, including power tools, bulldozers, cranes, forklifts, and dump trucks. Massive machinery and objects incorporated in construction can be source of danger at construction site. Slips, trips, and falls. Falls are one of the leading causes of fatalities and critical injuries. Walking surfaces can be very hazardous if they are slippery. Uneven surface, obstacles, broken flooring, damaged steps, potholes, and other damaged surfaces can result in trips and falls. Noise. The construction site working environment is busy and noisy. Sudden loud volume can be hazardous for workers, but it's also exposure to long-term, repetitive sounds, such as grinding and drilling, which can lead to short or long-term problems, including hearing loss. Construction site noise can also present a distraction, which can result in accidents. Hand-arm vibration syndrome. It is caused by occupational exposure to vibrating hand tools. Conditions such as carpal tunnel syndrome, bone cysts, tendinopathies, and osteoarthritic changes of the hand, wrist, and elbows have been attributed to exposure to hand-arm vibration. It can impact workers for the rest of their lives, and damage and side effects can be permanent in severe cases. Material and manual handling. Many construction site activities involve manual handling, a hazard which puts workers at risk of musculoskeletal disorders. Collapsing trenches. A common occurrence on construction sites is the collapsing of trenches with workers inside. Further, a building that is being demolished or under construction can suddenly and unexpectedly collapse, which can injured, or killed, those inside. Actively used chemicals. Processing equipment that uses chemicals can be sources of numerous hazards. Dry paint that contains lead, and exposure to materials, such as cement, and solvents, that can cause skin problems, such as dermatitis. Many other problems can occur by using chemicals, like chemical burns. Electricity. Electric shock and electric burns occurs when construction worker uses unsafe equipment, such as damaged electrical wires, and exposed wiring, can be dangerous. Electrocution can occur when a person comes into contact with an electric current. Extension cords can be found in almost every work environment. Damaged cords can be dangerous, as they can cause fires and serious injury. Airborne fibers and materials. Unsurprisingly, a lot of dust is produced on construction sites. The dust on construction sites is often an invisible, fine, and toxic mixture of hazardous materials and fibers. This can damage the lungs and lead to diseases such as chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, asthma, and silicosis. Sharp edges. Simply walking past machinery may be hazardous if sharp edges are not guarded. Sharp edges of machinery and tools or equipment can cause injuries, such as cuts or even amputations. Scaffold. Scaffold is an elevated, temporary work platform. Workers working on scaffolds are exposed to many hazards, such as falls, slipping, unsafe access, the lack of fall protection, and struck by falling tools and debris. Scaffold collapse that can cause by instability or overloading. Injuries on a construction site. Workers may experience cuts from materials and tools, fatal and non-fatal falls from ladders, scaffolding, and burns from welding and chemicals that are used at construction site. Some jobs expose workers to harmful materials, fumes, or to dangerous machinery. Workers may also experience muscle fatigue and injuries that are related to lifting heavy materials and carrying heavy materials. While working at construction sites, a construction worker may have to face many injuries such as electrical burns, chemical burns, extreme temperature, poisoning, traumatic brain injuries, repetitive strain injuries, crush injuries. Electrical burns. Although not safe, it's not uncommon to find loose wires around a construction site. An electrical burn can occur when a current jumps from an electrical outlet, electrical cord, electrical appliance, and passes through your body. These types of burns can cause internal damage to the body, including brain injury, heart injury, or death. Chemical burns. Chemicals are sometimes required on construction sites, like paint thinner, plumbing products, or bleach. In the case that a chemical is not appropriately sealed, stored, or out of the way of typical construction work, an injury to the body may occur, like a spill. A chemical burn occurs when the skin is in contact with a strong substance, burning through the skin until it's adequately washed away. Extreme temperature. Work outdoors increases the possibility of suffering from heat exposure. Extreme temperature can also pose a danger to workers. Heat stress can cause heat stroke, exhaustion, cramps, and rashes. Poisoning. Poison from hazardous chemical can cause severe damage or death. Traumatic brain injuries. Traumatic brain injuries caused by not wearing a safety helmet at construction site. Repetitive strain injuries. Lifting heavy loads or carrying heavy loads, frequent bending or frequent twisting, and heavy physical work are risk factors for low back disorders. Repetitive strain injuries associated with repetitive tasks, forceful exertions, vibrations, mechanical compression, or sustained and awkward positions. Crush injuries. Slips, trips, and falls are a major source of injuries and fatalities among construction workers. General safety measures of construction site. The first rule of safety is always wear correct protective equipment. Do not drink or take drugs while working. Always pay attention to personal hygiene. Do not play in the workplace. Report to your supervisor immediately if you notice any unsafe condition. Observe and obey cautionary instructions, signs, and symbols, which are displayed in the relevant places. Before you operate a machine, ensure that the dangerous part of the machine has been installed with a guard. Avoid going to any area with insufficient lighting, as there may be some dangerous places which have not been provided with fencing. Keep vigilant all the time, and watch out for moving cranes, hooks, or other lifting equipment. Before you use any electrical installation or tool, check the condition of its electric cables. Avoid dragging electric cables on the ground or allowing the cables to come into contact with water. Use electrical tools installed with an earth leakage circuit breaker, ELCB. Use and handle chemicals with care. Don't block emergency exits and assembly areas. Avoid shortcut methods and do the job with safe procedures. People should wear dust masks and safety glass in all dust-polluted atmosphere. Suitable measures, like water spraying, shall be done frequently to reduce the effects of dust pollution. Adequate training shall be provided among the employees in increasing the awareness on environmental protection procedures. Construction accidents. 2 construction workers die each day at construction site, on average, and thousands more are seriously injured. But the loss doesn't stop here. Construction accident injuries cripple entire families' abilities to earn income, care for their dependents, and sustain their quality of life. Accident evaluation. Each year, 9.7 of every 100,000 construction workers suffer a fatal injury, which is the 4th highest rate of any industry. Workers between 25 to 34 years old are the most likely to be injured in a construction site accident. Most construction site injuries involve construction workers' back and spine. U.S. accident statistics. The construction industry continues to face high rates of fatal and non-fatal injuries and accidents among its workers. Fatal construction industry statistics. 1 in 5 death among U.S. workers is in the construction industry. The 42 annual crane-related death, around 60%, involve a falling object. According to BLS and OSHA, the fatal 4 are the most common causes of construction site death. They are: falls, 33.5% of construction worker death; struck by an object, 11.1% of construction worker death; electrocutions, 8.5% of construction worker death; caught in between, 5.5% of construction worker death. Non-fatal construction injuries. Each year, 1.7% of construction workers suffer an injury serious enough that they miss work. The construction industry accounts for 8.5% of all injuries that result in lost days of work. Injury rates in construction are 71%, higher than injury rates across all industries on average. What to do when an accident happens? Get medical attention. Document or report the injury to your employer or construction site manager. Gather contact info for witnesses. Seek an attorney to evaluate potential claim. Preserve evidence. Take photos of the injury, location where the accident occurred, and if possible, retain object related to the injury.